Flopped in its first game in Tokyo, falling to France 83-76. France was led by NBA players Evan Fournier and Rudy Gobert. Now, the U.S. got a combined 21 points from Damian Lillard and Kevin Durant. Durant fouled out of the game. The loss is the first for the U.S. men at an Olympics since 2004. The team will look to rebound from today's defeat when it takes on Iran on Wednesday in another pool play game. We now welcome in Brian Windhorst. He is in Tokyo covering Team USA. And I know the players have spoken now after the game. How is this team reacting to this loss?
Well, they're not happy about it. Damian Lillard, I think, was sober about it and basically said, when you come play for Team USA, you don't expect something like this to happen. You don't expect to play this way. You don't expect guys who are NBA stars to miss shots and not execute like this. I don't care who you're playing. Greg Popovich took a different tact, crediting the opponent, which is fine. But even in a game where Kevin Durant has foul trouble, Kevin Durant goes to the bench and you come back with Jason Tatum, an All-NBA player. So obviously the French played well in this game, but the Americans did not execute, did not get it done. And quite frankly, they were just flat out outplayed. It was not because they were tired. It was not because the French have some sort of special magic. It was because they got out executed. And that is not something we're used to seeing from the national team that is unfortunately becoming more regular over the last couple of years.
Yeah, you just look at that imbalance of scoring. Drew Holiday with 18. I mean, he's trying his best to make it happen. Bam Adebayo with 12, but Devin Booker, 4. I mean, there's so many different things that you could point to. But what is the team saying is the biggest area for improvement moving forward as they now have their next game in just a few days?
Yeah, so they've got to worry about consistency. They just don't play a consistent game from start to finish. And the reason that's really a problem is because this is a 40-minute game. And I know that they can say that and they can re-emphasize it over and over. But when you're used to a 48-minute game, you can sometimes let your guard down on defense to give up a possession here or there. You just can't do that in international basketball. And that was one of the things that caught them tonight, because this was a game that they were ahead double digits by 2 different times, and with 4 minutes to go, are up by 8 points. You've got to close that game. And so their consistency is what they're talking about. They do have a couple of days of practice here. They're not, penalized in any way here. If they beat Iran on Wednesday and the Czech Republic on Saturday, they will advance to the medal round. But that's not important right now. What's important is them looking like NBA All-Stars that they are.
Yeah, foul trouble is something that they're going to try to clean up. Kevin Durant fouled out, obviously. Zach LaVine and Devin Booker each had more fouls than field goals made against France. So that's, just one of many things I think they're going to try to address. Brian Windhorst in Tokyo, thanks so much for the time. So the U.S. is going to take a couple days off. They will then play Iran on Wednesday. That's 12:40 a.m. Eastern. Then a matchup with the Czech Republic, finishing off group play on Saturday. Now, if the U.S. advances out of group play, the quarterfinals will be August 3rd. And right now, new on SportsCenter, Drew Holiday speaking to the media after the loss.
This is the first time I've been on the stage, so you always want to make an impression, but you never want to lose the first game. So just came out and played as hard as I can, like I usually do, and try to leave it out there on the court.
Sometimes it just isn't working. Team USA led by 7 at the end of the first quarter. In the 6th, France was led by NBA players Evan Fournier and Rudy Gobert, while the U.S. got a combined 21 points from Damian Lillard and Kevin Durant, who both fouled out. The loss is the first for the U.S. men at an Olympics since 2004. The team will look to rebound from today's defeat when it takes Iran on Wednesday in another pool play game. We welcome in NBA analyst Tim Legler once again. Team USA, of course, is dealing with new players, these guys that haven't played together before. They're also playing on limited practice time. Some just flew in off of the NBA Finals. How does this team improve this chemistry, Tim?
Well, it's tough because, listen, one of the problems that Team USA deals with is when you throw together a group of basically all-stars, their roles are completely different than what they are playing for their teams in the NBA. And as a result, you could see it in the way the two teams played today, the difference. Evan Fournier was the guy that was clearly the focal point for Team France. So he gets 22 shots. He gets into a rhythm. He feels like he's playing in an NBA game. For Team USA, it's a little bit different. You go long stretches without getting touches or shots. The only player on their roster that really had a run of rhythm was Drew Holiday at the beginning of the fourth quarter when he had a little individual run that got Team USA that big lead there late. But for the most part, it's a bunch of guys trying to figure out how to accept a different role, play together on the fly. Very difficult. They also, Ash, they have lost that awe factor. And when they played these teams in the past, typically that awe factor was worth 10, 15, 20 points. These teams now are not really intimidated because they have a lot of NBA players on their roster. They're used to seeing these guys throughout the course of an NBA regular season and even a postseason. So they're not really intimidated. They believe they can go out there and they can operate and they can play well. But for me, the biggest factor of all was the fact that the French team looked like a normal basketball team with a pecking order offensively, other guys filling roles. For Team USA, it's really a my turn, your turn type of offensive flow, and that's going to create some problems. They will get better each and every day of this tournament. The longer they're together, the more time they have together. You had some guys that just joined the team, haven't even practiced with them yet, really, coming from the NBA Finals. Once they incorporate everybody day after day and get a little bit more sense of desperation defensively, I think you're going to see Team USA continue to get stronger and stronger. Certainly, they should win their next two pool games without a problem. And then you get into that single elimination format where they will be tested in trying to win a gold medal.
Yes, certainly. I mean, you talk about what France did so well and how their scoring was just evenly balanced and it was working together. They finished the game on a 16-2 run. I mean, that's how you close out a game. How does USA combat when other teams are doing things like that? What do they improve on when really a team is just dominating one side of the game like that?
I think a couple of things they need to rely on. First is they need to understand that there's more to the game than the three-point line. And if you take a look at the way they closed it out, there were possessions when it looked like they were hunting the three-point shot. And I think they're going to serve themselves well by understanding they're going to be able to beat their man off the dribble pretty much any time they want to. Play some more drive and kick game. Get into the mid-range area of the floor. Get to the rim. Don't fall in love with the three-point shot. That's not necessarily the strength of this team. And if they do that, I think they're going to be in good shape. Because I don't think that these teams are going to be able to keep Team USA in front of them off the dribble, but they really got away from that as they got deeper into this game and they settled. I think oftentimes, even if it's an open shot, I think it's a settle sometimes because they can beat their man off the dribble, dominate the mid-range area of the floor, and get to the rim. And I think the other thing, defensively, they need to understand their athletic ability is their biggest asset. Their quickness, their length, their ability to recover, their ability to guard the three-point line. That you only saw one real desperate spurt out of this team, and it was at the start of the fourth quarter. And it ended up getting them a 7-point lead. Now, they weren't able to close the deal late. Their offense really let them down. But I think that desperation needs to start with the opening tip and understand they're going to have to work for 4 quarters against these teams. But ultimately, their speed should be something that disrupts any team's ability to run their offense. France looked very comfortable the entire game, particularly when the game was on the line. That's when they looked their most at ease, and as a result, they get the win.
Yeah, as you mentioned, that desperation, we're going to see that on display, no doubt about it, Wednesday when Team USA plays Iran. Tim Legler, thank you for helping us make sense of something that I think all of us were looking at, like, what is going on? So you're amazing. We appreciate you stopping by. Hey, the U.S. will get a couple of days off, rest, recuperate, and then they will play Iran Wednesday at 12:40 a.m. Eastern. Then a matchup with the Czech Republic, finishing off group play on Saturday. And if the U.S. advances out of group play, the quarterfinals will be August 3rd.
We have breaking NFL news on SportsCenter. Deshaun Watson reporting to Texans camp. Our NFL insider Adam Schefter joining us now live. Adam, what more can you tell us?
Well, Jay, this really was the next step that Deshaun Watson had to take. It's not that he wants to be there. It's not that the Texans want him there, while the NFL and police in Houston continue to investigate the allegations levied against Deshaun Watson over harassment. And so this is a case where if he had not reported to camp today, he would have been fined $50,000 a day. And so rather than face those fines and the ramifications that come with that, Watson reported. Now the question is, do the Texans take some action on their own? Do they excuse him from camp until the legal issues are resolved? Do they let him be there? Do they let him practice? It's hard to imagine when they seem like they're open and willing and likely to trade him at some point. We don't know when, but likely to trade him, that they'll allow him to practice. So how do they avoid that happening when he doesn't want to be there practicing for them, when they don't want him practicing for them, but he had to report to avoid the fines? So this obviously is a story that is just beginning, but this